Even if you live on a balcony in an apartment, if you have good light coming in, you can grow good stuff. Good day, my name's John Gonzales, and I'm a graduating student from the class of 2018 in the permaculture class, and this is my garden. Welcome. This is where it all started. This is the first bed that we ever built, but what we're going to do is I'm remove all the fence, and we're going to put tanks that are about this tall. And we're going to rebuild, take all this dirt here, fill it in the beds, but the bottom of the beds, you know, because they're so huge, we're going to fill with logs, sticks, semi-decomposed compost, some peat moss, and then leaves, and then layer it up with paper and kind of a hybrid hugelkultur approach. And then at the top of on the top layers, that's where we start putting in this soil here that's been amended and built. It's really good, rich, fertile soil, and that's going to be the top soil, and then we're going to compost it and mulch it over there, let it go fallow for a little while. Beautiful. And then we start planting. And also we have our coveted water tank that we got from Nell and Dean from Metal Rain Tanks. I definitely recommend one of these things. They're really awesome pieces of equipment.
How much does that one hold?
This is an 850-gallon tank.
Wow.
And so yeah, we're pretty happy with it. What we did here is this area, when we first had grass here, was really bad about flooding. So when we decided to put a bed here, we dug it all down to the ground and then started digging. There's caches underneath here where we dug like 3 feet down, packed it with limbs, organic materials, sticks and peat moss, and then filled that up and then leveled it and then started building up from there. The beds, we also dug down where the beds were going to be and did the same process there too. And what was interesting about that is that when it started raining during heavy storms, the water would get wet and thick, but then it would just drain like that. So we went through that really bad heavy storm after we did that. And we were amazed at how much water it just soaked up. It was just like this bloody sponge. And during the winter, during the summer, of course, if you keep watering it, you can see the soil here. Well, the soil here is actually starting to get a little bit on the loose side. But it's really porous. It's really rich. And
where do you get your organic material for, especially those lower layers?
Okay, so what we do is when we go fallow between seasons, we fold in a little bit of compost that we have there, and then we also take the kitchen scraps, vegetable cuttings, and dig down deep, and just fold it in there, and just top it off with that, and then put compost on the top, and then mulch it and let it sit until it's ready to plant. And then we amend it with whatever things we're going to put in the soil for whatever plant we're going to plant, and we just go from there.
And how long have these beds been here?
These beds are now 5 years old. Wow. So, and as you can see, we got a tree there. It's been there for a while, and we're just finishing the last of the harvest because it was full of Mara lemons. But and I've also pruned it and trimmed a lot of the dead stuff off there. And this is our garlic. This is the first wave of plants that come in. We plant plants well before the freezes, because we get this growing period in the fall now with the way the weather's been turning. We get about 3 or 4 months of really good weather for growing. So we get this first wave growing, and we're not worried about the frost because we have good frost prevention procedures, and we've taken these beds. They're 5 years old. They've been through all of the freezes, including that 20-degree freeze that we had. And
what do you do for frost prevention?
That's a good question.
Sounds like it might be.
Well, what we do is we have freeze cloth, and then prior to the freeze, we pull back the mulch. We take the mulch like this and pull it back. Let me get it over here. Pull it back to where the dirt is. And then we just layer in a thick layer of compost, and then you recover it with heavy mulch, and then you wet the hell out of it. You get it really good and wet, so it's really wet, and then you cover it with leaf compost. And then you lay you almost cover it up like you almost cover up the plants, so they're like little blankets. And then you fold the top of the leaf, the freeze cloth over the top. And what happens is, with the water, when you get it wet, water in order to freeze generates BTUs. So, I mean, in some cases, if you're really desperate and you need a quick fix and you're really desperate for something, you can get a bucket of water, fill it up with water, just plain water, and put it out there in an area where your plants are. And the amount of energy that it takes to freeze, it takes energy to freeze. So when it's doing that, it gives off a lot of heat.
Wow.
So that's
igloo science.
It's igloo science. Yeah, I mean, you can cover this. This is a little greenhouse, mini greenhouse.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of our seedlings here, I started in the inside under the grow lights. And when they're ready to come out in the dirt, we just put them in here. It's potting soil that we built, actually. So we build our own potting soil. We don't buy potting soil. We build it.
Recipe?
Yeah, I'll show you our process in a second here. But this is a mini greenhouse for this. And we just inherited a dwarf banana plant. So we're going to have bananas. So here's the interesting thing about our hydroponic system. Right now it's kind of in flux. But what I've been doing is taking cuttings off the fig trees and rerouting them. There's a loquat that I'm starting over here. And here's another fig that the leaves died, but it will start back up. That's the way this one started. But if you look at it now, so I think I'm going to go ahead and just leave it there. It was getting really big, huge, unwieldy. But we decided to just go ahead and leave it. As you see, it's bearing fruit. So it's very happy there. So we're just going to leave it there, because the problem is that the only drawback to it is that it dominates this area where the roots are. I mean, the roots just, but it's fed solely by the water and the nutrients that we put in the aquaponics system.
And this is hooked up to your rainwater? Or?
Yeah, I fill it with the rainwater from the tank, so it's all run on rainwater, no city water whatsoever. So what we do is we add seaweed, microlife, fish emulsion, seaweed and fish emulsion. That's all we use for the base. And molasses to stimulate. And in the bag here, I put some microlife, calcium, and a little blood meal. And it's in there. And what that does is it breaks down and it gets into the water. So that's all these plants are living on. It's just the water and the nutrients in the soil. The molasses in the soil imparts, good enzymes for stimulating microbiotic activity.
I feel like I am in school. Tell me your background. Are you learning this as you go?
I learned this from the program, actually. But the thing about it is that all the things you learn in the program are really interesting, because when you first start going through the program, you realize that a lot of these things are applicable for large tracts of land. But they can be scaled down, and this is a good example of how we scale down for this sort of thing. We do try to plant pair plants that are compatible with each other. For instance, the garlic on the edges here serve as a deterrent for insects.
And just the fact that you're in the middle here, we see all the edges you've optimized with kind of this garden design.
Yeah. The idea is that I can get a wheelbarrow in around here, so I can when I do service work, I can get over here. I can access from here on out, across here, there, and there. So I have full access over here. And we're also starting to see how this works. For instance, let me give an example of what's coming up here. This bed here, if you look at it, you'll see that's spilling over and going down onto the deck here. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is take those tiles over there from that bed, and I'm going to build a back wall here. And that dirt's just going to rest, that soil's going to rest right there. And then I'm going to get bricks like this and build this part out again, so it'll all match. And start bringing that up too as well, but it won't be spilling over onto the deck like that. So it's a constantly evolving thing.
And for two people, it seems like you got a really nice variety of veggies to supplement.
Well, we try to grow what we like to eat. So for instance, there's Brussels sprouts. We love cabbages. Sarah makes sauerkraut in the fall. This is the first year we started on mustard greens. But when it comes to greens, our general diet is chard, kale, cabbages, and onions and garlic that we grow, and peppers, lots of peppers. We grow lots of peppers. So yeah, those are our staples, and that's what's been growing for the most part around here.
Incredible.
Green peppers, This is one of our first trees that we bought, and it's also one of our best producers, and it's in the ground. We have a blood orange over here in the pot. We have a satsuma. This is starting to come around. It was a little crazy because it's trying to settle into its new world, but actually it's, to my surprise, it actually is producing satsumas. It hadn't been producing for a couple of years.
Still get to jump in the pool when you feel like it.
That's the beauty of the setup. Really, it is. It's so cool. And this is about the thing about trees in a pot. When people say you can't grow trees in a pot, that's not true. You can, and you can have fruit with them. These are blood oranges.
That's a lot of fruit.
Well, it's a small, well, not compared to people that let their trees grow 50 or 60 feet tall. But at the same time, we don't have that kind of room here. And we like blood oranges, so we can come out here and just pick them. They're easy to maintain and manage. Some plants, like for instance this one here, this is a habanero. This is 2 years old. This is from the previous growing season. But it's just done so well, and we just left it alone. So it's reproducing, and it's probably going to go dormant for the winter. We're going to take care of it if it can survive the winter here. We'll leave it there and let it go through the spring growing season. So what else do we have? Oh, okay, so here's the thing, another thing too. When we started out, we put a bed back here. Our compost bins are over here. All my leaves I store right there. What we decided, what we found out was and determined was that these beds are good and what we grow back here is good, but the problem is in order to service them you have to come all the way out here, and then they don't always get the proper attention that they need. So we decided that we're going to start putting trees here. So
excellent.
we started here with a grapefruit, and this is an interesting one too. I've been trying for 2 years to get papayas, and I finally got this one going. It was a really funny situation because I got it this big and it died during the freeze, and I thought, well, okay, well that's the end of it. But it came. This one stalk was there, and I left it there because I wanted its root structure to just stay in the ground to hold the soil in. But to my surprise, it started sprouting because the roots didn't die, and so it just restarted sprouting up there.
Looks very happy now.
So what I've learned is that I can take this thing like this, cut it right there at an angle on a node, put a spacer between it, and get a plastic bag, fill it with really good potting soil, and slit it, and then put it around there, and then tie it up there with bungee cords or something like that. And in about 6 months, this node right here will start sending out roots in the bag, and then I can break this off and put it in a pot and have another plant, another papaya tree. But I know this is a good one because this one's fruits, and even better than it being a female, it's a hermaphrodite, so it has both sexes, so I don't have to worry about that sort of thing. I was having a terrible time trying to grow a female plant because they're the ones that bear fruit, and all the ones that we kept growing were male. And so I learned all kinds of things about it, and I found out, well, it was basically due to the type of seeds you put in there, and there's a way that you can tell the male seeds from the female seeds. But anyhow, this one was it just turned out that this was a lucky break, and it turned out it was a hermaphrodite plant, which is even better.
So that's what to look for. Good to know.
Well, you don't know, but the thing about pawpaws is you just don't know that you're going to have that till they grow up.
Right.
So I'll show you something else with that thing too. We're having loquats. We're going to start trees with loquats, figs. Here's a fig, a cutting that I took off the fig and just rerouted it there. And then I moved it here, so it's going to start. That's how that one started. There's another loquat and another fig, which we started back there using that process for now. Yep. Well, it's still a work in progress. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do cosmetically, and once we're going to rip out all these fences, put brand new fences in, rerun the watering systems, and then we're going to put. We were growing bed plants in there, but we're not going to do that anymore. We're just going to dedicate this to bushes, fruiting bushes, and bushes that flower and that are beneficial to the garden. So all that's going to be there, Fruit trees are going to be here because they're further away in the outer zone. You remember the zones?
Of course.
Okay, so those are going to be on the outer zones where they don't require a lot. Oops. Well, you got to watch a little. Sorry about that. Yep. So with all the herbs we're going to have situated around the house, and I'll show you something in regards to that papaya. So the herbs and everything that we will use for seasoning and teas are going to go here. We already have our tomato plants starting for the next season. And there's another fig that we had going, and this is from a huge what's we've been doing with these tarragon. It's tarragon, and then here you go. Here's a good example.
No.
So we take them, we cut them back, and this is a 2-year-old plant.
Then he doesn't have
So we take these and just repot them, and man, they come back huge. This is one that we started again. A huge bush we had. And where is it? I'll find it here in a second. Okay, there's another tomato plant for this, and parsley, of course, or cilantro.
A very happy kale plant is about 6 feet tall over there.
Oh well, yeah. Well, what that is a collard green, and that's 2 years old, but it just keeps producing, so we leave it alone. Oh yeah, I think it's huge, and it loves the summer, so they're perfect plants for the summertime. We don't buy our potting soil anymore; we make it. So when I say we make it, this is what we do. For instance, we take all of the soil that we used in pots, and as long as the soil in the pots are not diseased, and as long as they're healthy plants, then it's okay to reuse it. If you have a plant in a pot and it picks up disease, and something's really bad with it, toss out the plant. Don't put it in your compost, because it'll transmit those diseases in the soil and will come up and affect other plants. Throw it away, send it to the landfill, and get rid of the soil. So it's the same thing with the soil. But if it's healthy, what we do is we'll take the soil and take leaves from the compost bin and mix it in with it, along with semi-decomposed compost, molasses, and you water it periodically. And this is the beginning of a new one. This was full. This one here is the primary stage. If you look at it, you see what it's doing. See how it's breaking down?
Wow.
Yeah. And then you just take that, and I come here periodically, and it's very moist too, and it stays that way. So that's the potting soil. If it's healthy, it's got good nutrients in it, and just keep folding this stuff together, and then we add kitchen scraps to it as well. And then after a while, you start seeing earthworms down there. So it's got earth castings and everything like that going for it. And then from there, we take it over here, and I mix it here with other types of potting soil. And you see it's got a lot of stuff left over in it. Oh, here you go. I just put some kitchen scraps in there. And that's our organic material. And that all breaks down. And from there it goes here, here, and here. And then it finally goes in here. Now what we do to ensure that it's really good, that's really free of diseases or bacteria, we bake it. We bake it for 20 minutes under high heat.
In the oven?
In the oven.
Wow.
And it kills it. And then you add whatever your amendments you want to, and that's your potting soil. So you add peat moss. You can just get some peat moss, and that keeps it porous. This is simple peat moss. It's cheap. It's unbelievably cheap. You can use coconut husks. You can use. We also, the other thing I add too that's not here. I'm going to go pick some up tomorrow. Is coffee shaft. So what we do is there's a roaster that I know, and we were sitting there drinking coffee one time and talking, and he says, he goes, you know what? I have something that's really good for your garden. I said, oh, coffee grounds? He goes, well, yeah, we have plenty of coffee grounds. You can come out and pick them up anytime you like. But if you want something even better, that's just as more. That actually has more phosphorus in it than coffee grounds. Is coffee shaft. Going, what do you mean? He says, well, you took me back there and showed them when they make coffee, they have to agitate the coffee and separate it from the husk and the shaft, and then they grind it up, and what's left over is called coffee shaft. and you take it's just like fine powder.
Uh-huh.
And you just take it, fold it into the dirt, and that's like adding coffee to your soil. And it also adds to the porosity too, because it breaks down and makes the soil really, see, it's just like, retains water, but it's just really soft and porous. So it's really, really good loamy soil. Now these just came out of the grow lights inside. We have grow lights inside, and these came out of the beds. When they get this big, then we put them in dirt to build them up, and then from there they go into the beds. That's the process we use. Unless some seeds are better off seeding direct sowing into the ground. But we had a problem here a while back with rat. We've since then got it under control, but the rats, last year I got everything through this process, got everything in the ground, and I mean all the beds were just doing fine. The cabbages were coming up just like this, and I came out here 2 days later and they had just like eaten everything to it. I mean,
oh my goodness. So what was the solution to that?
Well, you have to wage war on the rats.
Yeah.
So we went in there and put, well, we got a cat. Well, actually, we had a little puppy at the time, and she turned out to be a really good ratter. She killed 3 of them. We've taken some steps inside the garage, because that's where they're coming from. So we cleaned out the garage, and we laid out rat poison, and basically it took care of it. So we now have things under control. And so we're going back to the old process again. But it was really nothing worse than having to go through all this stuff and come out here and think that you're well ahead of the game and seeing all your work just being eaten down to nothing. So everybody has that. You know, I mean, there's some people that probably you look at them and say, oh, well, you know so much about it, you're never going to have problems, but it's not true.
There's always
everybody has issues.
Someone else trying to eat your food.
Pests, and you know, just after a while, you learn what you need to do and what not to do.
And have rats been the biggest problem so far, pest-wise?
Yeah, rats have been the biggest one. Squirrels sometimes, if it's a real dry season, squirrels can be really bad because they'll eat your fruit, but they'll also, like in some cases, they'll come out there. Well, they're here every morning digging out but that's a good thing in a way. I started looking at it as a good thing, because what they're doing is they're loosening up the soil, which I'm going to have to loosen up all the time. So the other thing I can say about pots, can you keep stuff in pots? Yes, you can. But the thing to pots is that you have to maintain strong layer of mulch. Okay, and then in addition to that, you like, for instance, when I service it, I pull it all back like this, and then I add some compost. And if it's a particular plant that needs a specific type of mineral, I amend the supplement with compost or something like that. I'll show you what I'm doing. So I pull this here. Some plants, all they need is compost. So I do buy compost, but I don't buy a whole lot of it. I use most of my own compost, but for stuff like that, for pots, I always get this. Farm dirt is for Houston, in my opinion, it's the best because it's local hardwood, and it's really good fresh stuff. So you can get a little bit of compost and just reapply it, and that's it. You know, I usually do this like maybe once a month for these plants in the pots, and as long as you do that and keep it watered, this plant has been through 2 summers and it's still pretty healthy, and that's all you do to it. So you can keep stuff. Mint, this mint is ancient, but just keep it down, you let it grow, and then you cut it down. You do the same treatment there. You add whatever amendments that it likes to have, whatever food it takes, and then this following spring it'll be climbing out all over the place. So
perfect. You got your cooking herbs close by the door.
All the cooking herbs are close to the door. That's the way it's going. Somebody gave me a mango tree, and I said, well, I don't know. I know they don't grow well here, but you know what? I'm going to try it. So there's my mango tree.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and ginger. We're repotting some of the ginger. So, and that's it. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Well, how about these buckets over here? Is this probably your composting project?
No, these are wicking buckets. I clean those out because generally we grow peppers or tomatoes in them. And they're like wicking buckets, so like I'll give you a breakdown of it real quick. So that's the bottom, which is like the reservoir. So you water, you take this, and I'll have to redo this, of course. This is nothing but this sun cloth, but it's good filter material. You put this in. This is just like a sprinkler, a drain fitting that goes into these drains that you put in the garden for landscaping. And you put this here, and what that does is it puts the soil it acts as a container for the soil. It keeps soil from going down into the sump. Because this is your sump, this is where your liquid's going to be. And it fits in there like that. As you can see, there's holes drilled in it. And they're the holes, so we drilled all the holes in there, so it's good drainage. And then you put your watering tower right here. And then you fill it up with your soil, put whatever plants in it, and you water. The idea here is that you water till water comes out of the wheat hole. And the wheat hole's right here, and that's just below this bucket here. So the water never gets up in the soil, but it gets just right, it kisses the bottom of the soil. And you can't overfill it because you fill it till water comes out of the wheat hole. And it's there, it's at the proper level. So that you can go without 3 or 4 days without watering, and it just sucks up the water.
Incredible.
Like a sponge.
About so many
So, and that's pretty much our garden.
Wow.